you all for being here this afternoon. It's an exciting time here at ECU for women's basketball. Obviously, we had an unbelievable season last year, probably a season that will be unforgettable, but it is a new season. And so we stopped talking about last year on September 25th, 26th, whatever the first day of practice was, because it is a new team, it is a new season. But I'm extremely proud of this team and of this program and what we've been able to do these last 4 years. And we've really gotten the program to where we can be considered a real opponent. You know, in the past, people would come to Greenville, you know, with a check mark beside it as it's an automatic win. And so now we are figuring out how do we play from the top instead of from the bottom. You know, it's a new set of challenges. And so we're still learning how to win, but we've had some unbelievable practices. There's some times where we look really, really, really good. And then there's some times where we look like we're still trying to figure it out. But obviously having all 5 starters returning and 3 kids that played some good minutes and mixing in 6 kids that, you know, at times all will play. I think at least 4 or 5 of them will get substantial minutes for us this year. Is the most depth that I've had since I've been at East Carolina. And they are making it extremely hard on me when it comes down to minutes, who's gonna start, but that's obviously a coach's dream. And you know, for me, my goal is to always look down at the stat sheet at the end of the game and have 4 or 5 kids in double figures, and I truly think we can do that this year. You know, last year we depended on Danae and Amaya Joyner heavily for a lot of scoring. I think this year we have kids that can take some of that pressure off of them, but they're still trying to figure out, you know, how do they still get theirs? How do they still, you know, impose their will, you know, on opponents, with understanding that there are other young women on the team, you know, that can do a lot of great things. So, you know, we have an unbelievable schedule this year. And last year we kind of dummied it down a little bit because I felt like we needed to teach these kids how to win. And with this being the best team that we have had thus far, since I've been here, we upped it a little bit, you know, starting off with even our scrimmages. So we've got some really tough scrimmages that we're gonna go away. We're not doing any scrimmages at home because I feel like we practice at home all the time. We gotta get used to winning on the road. You know, going to the Bahamas, playing Ohio State, who's gonna be top 10, Seton Hall, who's always extremely scrappy, and then obviously the main one with South Carolina coming here on December 30th. I think it's gonna be a non-conference schedule that's gonna prepare us for our conference that is extremely tough, but also prepare us for postseason play, where I think we kind of fell short last year. Being in that environment and not playing against that type of team and not understanding what it took in order to be competitive in a game like that. So we built our non-conference schedule to get us prepared. So extremely happy, you know, we still doing our practice players of the day. And on any given night, on any given day, I think almost everybody has gotten practice player of the day. And there's been days where I could have named 7 practice players of the day, which is obviously a coach's dream to have kids constantly competing in practice. So I think the girls are excited. We've got our first scrimmage tomorrow where we play against somebody other than ourselves and against guys. So we'll see tomorrow, you know, what we're truly made of.
Questions?
You know, last year you guys, I feel like you used a lot of motivation, just kind of being picked where you were, and you mentioned at the top, you know, you guys are predicted to finish, you know, near the top. So what sort of lessons that you guys learned last year apply to this year in that sense?
Yeah, so at the end of the season, we had our end of the year meetings, and all the girls were extremely disappointed about how we performed in the NCAA tournament. I think leading up to that week, it was just excited to be there. You know, we're in postseason play, and they did not understand the preparation that it took to be competitive in that type of environment. And for me, I'm all about, you know, you practice the way, you play the way you practice, and it all starts in practice. And we were too up and down in practice last year. Like, we just didn't have enough good practices. So this year, our goal has been to be more consistent in practice. You know, I'm not a believer that when the lights come on, you perform. Like, you gotta train your mind and your body to play a certain way. So that's where we are right now, is stringing together more consistent practices, and we've done that. I mean, there's been times when we've put together, we don't practice any more than 3 days in a row, but we've put 3 good practices together, and that's a huge jump from what we did last year.
How has Amaya improved her game and also off the court, just in maturing? Like, how's her off-season been?
Yeah, Maya, when you see her today, you see her body's changed. She's taller than me, she's stronger, but I think the biggest thing is just her maturity level off the court and on the court. If you would open practice last Saturday, you see she has a different demeanor about her. You know, she's more focused, she's more locked in, she's not allowing, you know, a missed layup or a bad pass to just totally, you know, frustrate her. I had so many people come up to me on Saturday and say, wow, like she's really, really matured. And that's always been my goal for her. We all know she's a talent on the court, you know, but it was getting her to mature, you know, as an individual, I think would really elevate her game. And I think it has done that. She's just a very selfless player. And I think even more this year in practice, she's being too selfless. And so I'm trying to get her to understand, yeah, we have the twins and all that, but I still want her to be her. You know, I want her to impose her will and to score the basketball. So she's still trying to figure that piece out.
Last year, you were a great defensive team, and you said in your opening statement this year you have more offensive weapons and want to try to integrate that. So how do you, this year, integrate those offensive weapons while keeping the great defense as you played last year?
Yeah, that defense won't change. That will always be our identity. That will always be what we hang our hats on. You know, I just feel like the better defense that we have and the more turnovers we're able to force and get out in transition, the better we'll be offensively. We've still putting tremendous efforts in practice on defense. I just think we have more kids that just can naturally score the ball. And so, you know, we talked about having 4 or 5 kids in double figures. I think we can have that. I think on any given night, Danae could lead us in scoring. Mama could lead us in scoring. Micah, one of the twins, anybody can lead us in scoring. And so I think we'll be a much more exciting team to watch on the offensive end of the floor. My goal is to average in the high 70s and still keeping our opponents in the 50s, the mid to low 50s. If we do that, we'll win a lot more games than we'll lose. But nothing changes with us. Our identity will always be defense, and they understand that.
Coach, over here.
You guys played a lot of freshmen last year, and you know they found some success. I guess what effect do you think that'll have for them this year? And also, just do you think you kind of figured out the blueprint for the incoming freshmen? Just kind of see how these sophomores now handle what they did last year.
Yeah, I'm never against playing freshmen. You know, I think if our freshmen are able to play, we've done a pretty good job in recruiting. And so definitely the experience that Amaya got and Bobby got last year will definitely help them this year. We have another outstanding freshman class that, you know, is definitely keeping our upperclassmen on their heels because they're pushing them every single day of practice. And, you know, with Karina and Kaya, they bring an element that we haven't had offensively, and that's the ability to shoot the ball. I mean, both of them can shoot the 3 very, very well, so obviously we need that. And then Jade Tillman, she's just a tough, hard-nosed kid that's going to help us on the boards, and Jaden gives us size. So those kids will come in and they'll push for some playing time, and quite frankly, we need them to play. You know, I want depth. I want to be able to sub kids in and out and not lose a lot, and that's what we've been able to do in practice. So you'll see a lot of freshmen on the floor again this year.
You seem to be really big on your team getting out in the community. You're at schools and Boys and Girls Club, hospital, whatever. So how does that stuff kind of translate to wins, you know, on and off the court, and why is that so important to you and your program?
Yeah, I think it just builds character. You know, we actually left ECU Health this morning, you know, promoting breast cancer awareness. And, you know, at least once a week, once every other week, we're out doing something, whether it's at Elmhurst or, you know, just doing a lot of different things. But it just builds character. You know, our young ladies, they're blessed. And so we want to be able to give back to the Greenville community. We want to be able to give back to Pirate Nation. And whether they want to be or not, they're role models. You know, they're role models for little boys, little girls. Heck, they're role models for older adults as well. So, you know, I want them to be visible. I want them to understand that it's not just about basketball, that we're here to serve this community and to serve Pirate Nation.
Coach, today recognized with some preseason accolades, and rightfully so. She's kind of quiet, so can you tell us a little bit about her, the person? Because her play speaks loud, but just a little bit about her and, you know, what you're hoping out of her this year.
Yeah, Danae is extremely quiet. You know, she's a humble young lady that, you know, her work ethic hasn't changed. You know, she stayed all summer again, just like she did last year. So she's earned, the preseason player of the year. But, as I tell her every day, it doesn't matter. They're not handing out trophies for that right now, and still at the end of the day, what matters the most is us holding up that big trophy at the end of the year, winning a championship. But she wants it. She understands she has to be a little bit selfless too, so you can see her in practice passing the ball a little bit because she's going to draw a lot of attention. I mean, her and Amaya have a target on their back right now. They're not surprising anybody. And so she's done a really good job utilizing, her teammates and helping her, because the more they can score, the more people can't, double and team her and things of that nature. So she's been a great teammate. It's her second year as a captain, but she leads in more of a, as an example more than she is vocally. But she's experienced, she understands, and, she's had a great summer and a great preseason thus far.
Coach Becker.
Coach, obviously, you mentioned it earlier, with the group of 18 to 23-year-olds, they're going to be so focused on getting back to the tournament. What kind of a challenge is it for you as a coach to kind of keep the focus on those little goals incrementally as you lead up to the postseason?
Yeah, well, this is, the first time I've been here that we can actually talk about a championship, that is actually realistic. So we do talk about it. We want to have championship practices, but obviously we know we got to take one game at a time. And, the next most important game is the game that we have tomorrow, our scrimmage. And then next Sunday, our next scrimmage. And then, Elon is our opener. We want to, have a really, really good preseason again like we did last year. I think we had 10 wins on the road all last year, which was extremely hard to do, to win on the road. But, for me, it's about winning the day in practice. And so that's really where it starts with our practice and what little goals we have set for the day in practice. I'm a goal-driven person, so we have daily goals that we want to accomplish. And I think that kind of keeps you, really, really focused, on the big picture. We always say if we can dominate the little things, big things will happen. And so they've done a really good job of stringing together more consistent practices. So I'm just, as they are, I'm ready to go play somebody else, so we can see truly, where we are tomorrow. Be great film work after that and really see what works and what doesn't work.
How you doing, Coach? As far as the crowds last year were amazing, especially down the stretch. How do you go from that great response from Pirate Nation from the end of the year, plus the viewing party that was awesome right here at the club level?
Yeah, I think the community, getting out in the community definitely helps that, because I think when people feel like they have a personal relationship or they know our players, they want to come out and they want to support them. So that's another reason why we get out in the community. But I'm hoping that we can pick up where we left off. I mean, you think about those last games at home, the crowds were great, especially against Houston. To hear the ECU chants, to hear the purple and gold, that really helps us. That to have that crowd behind you, it gives you motivation, it gets you excited. And, I say all the time, I don't feel like there's any reason why we can't average 1,500 to 2,000 people a night. We're not in a city where we have major sports. We don't have any pro sports. So ECU is the sport. And so I just feel like, we should be able to have that. I'm hoping we do. I mean, we are an exciting brand of basketball. We get after it. Even I think when we lose games, we still play hard. So I'm hoping that we can pick up where we left off, and that'll be November 9th, our first home opener where we're going to reveal the NCAA banner. So I'm hoping to have a huge crowd, at that game.
What does the new conference look like with the new teams coming in, some teams leaving? Your take on what the American looks like going into this year?
Yeah, we lost Central Florida, Houston, Cincinnati, which, we were, 6-0 against, Now they're in the Big 12. I like to throw that out there a little bit. But we also have some good teams coming in. I mean, Rice is really good. They had, some really good years in the Conference USA, and I think they may have beat Houston last year and had a really good non-conference slate. So I know they're going to be really good coming in. UT San Antonio has a really good player that I think was the player of the year last year in Conference USA. So, there are a lot of good teams coming in. I don't know a whole lot about a lot of them, but, excited to play against some new teams. I think the first time teams play us, first couple of times they play us, they struggle, because I don't think you can simulate our defense in practice. But, I always say this, I think our league doesn't get enough credit for how good we really are. I think South Florida is always going to be good. Memphis is going to be good. Tulsa brings a different brand. SMU is going to be really good again this year. So it's going to be competitive, and every night we're going to have to bring it, whether we're at home or whether we're on the road, we're going to have to bring our best brand of basketball for we're up here now, we're not down here, you know, so people are gonna give us their best shot they've got every single night.
I know you've always had a good relationship with Don Staley, but how does it feel to bring a program like South Carolina to Greenville and also go up against a mentor in Don Staley?
Yeah, you know, I've always looked up to Dawn. Obviously, played at the University of Virginia. I'm from Virginia, point guard, small point guard. You know, a lot of similarities. She's better than I was and has a lot more championships than I do. But she's just done remarkable things for women's basketball. Just built it, and you know, I think without her, women's basketball wouldn't be where it is today. So to be able to bring her into Minji's and play her team, which is going to be another unbelievable team. I just think it's great for our program. I think it's great for Pirate Nation. I think it's great for Greenville. And that's what you come to college for, you know, to play against some of the best competition in the country. And that's what we'll be doing. And it'll be fun, you know, and hell, who knows, we may shock the world. You know, that's the plan, that's the goal, you know, to come in and to not to just play, but to win a game. And, you know, I think on some days, I'll be honest with you guys, we look like a top 25 team. You know, I've been a part of top 25 teams, and when Amaya and the twins and Danae and Micah got it going on, you know, I just think we have, you know, some of the best players in those positions in our league. And so we're going to be excited to play. I hope Pirate Nation comes out and supports us like they did last year, and just have another great season.
I know you guys are always going to play good defense. You know, your transition game is good. So how important is it to you to bring in some shooting? Like when you look at the roster and you kind of plan out how this year is going to go, how much focus did you put on just adding some shooting and three-point shots?
That was extremely important in every position, not only from the guards, but we wanted our posts to be able to stretch the floor too, because, you know, you can have a good inside game, but if you can't hit that 15, 17 footer, then defense is just going to sag in on you and take that away. So in this class, it was important that we brought in kids that could really shoot the ball, stretch the floor, scores. We wanted more scores. And so I really think we did that. But not only that, like the returnees, like they really worked their butts off in the offseason. I mean, they all pretty much stayed here all summer, and they all got better. You know, Kimmy Jenkins has gotten better. Bobby's gotten better. Every return, Morgan's gotten better. Everybody has gotten better. So when that happens, that just elevates your team. You know, I'm looking at our scrimmage last year against Elon. I'm looking at our game last year against Wake Forest, which was 2 games into the season. We're better right now than we were then. And that's huge, you know, and obviously that's returning a lot of veterans. That's, you know, recruiting a really great class that can come in and help you immediately. So just, you know, extremely thankful for my staff because they put tireless efforts into, you know, player development. And at this level, like, you got to make players better. Like, every single year they got to get better, and every single year our players have gotten better. This is 2 years in a row we've gotten the most improved player with Tanaya Thompson and Danae McNeill this past year. So that just tells you the work that my staff is putting in to make these kids better, but also credit the young ladies for coming in and wanting to get better. I mean, they could go home in the summer and go to the beach and lay out, but they chose to stay here because they know we're not finished and they want more. They got a taste of it and they want more.
Coach Schwartz has talked about building the men's program building it into a program, not a roster every year. And in today's world of college basketball, that's something that you've done as well over the past 2 years. And how much does it say about this group, as you said, for them to come back, especially with the transfer portal era?
Yeah, especially Micah and Danae, you know, who are grad kids that could have made a third, you know, went to a third school, but decided to stay at East Carolina. I think that just shows, you know, their loyalty. I think that also shows that they feel like they got a chance to run it back and win it again. You know, I've said, even when the transfer portal came into existence, I told my staff, like, I don't want to live on a transfer portal. I think it's a quick fix. I want to recruit high school kids because I think I'm all about relationships. So when you're recruiting a kid a year or 2 years, you really, really build those relationships. And I think that's how you build a program. Yes, we do have some kids on our roster from the portal, but everyone besides Micah, we recruited them out of high school. You know, I recruited Kimmy out of high school. She chose to go to Georgia. We recruited the twins out of high school when they chose to stay at home in Florida. So there was already a previous relationship there, and we already knew them. You know, as far as Micah, I think, you know, for me that was a blessing. You know, Micah is the type of point guard that I've always wanted, and she has set the tone and the model for my staff that when you go out and find a point guard, that's what I want it to look like. You know, so we got extremely lucky. I'm extremely grateful that she chose to come to East Carolina. But for us to keep those kids intact, you know, it says a lot. It says a lot about their loyalty. It says a lot about our culture.
Take one more. Coach, I know you mentioned moving on to this season, putting last season behind you, but did you have time this offseason to kind of reflect and think about how far this program's come and how that group helps sets the tone for this year?
Yeah, and, you know, when that buzzer went off against Houston, there was tons of emotion, you know, that just went through me. Just how far we've come, just everything, all the adversity we've dealt with, you know, over the last 3 years, and just, you know, just being grateful to some of the young ladies that hung in there, Sania Johnson, you know, that has been through it all, Morgan Mosley that has been through it all, the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, for them to stick with us, and, you know, where they could have chose to go elsewhere, as, you know, some kids did because they wanted to go somewhere to win. Well, when we kept telling them, we can win here, and obviously we did last year. Just to watch the support, you know, the end of the season, the amount of people that came out and supported us, to the selection show that was here, to just all the different things that I've been asked to come out and speak at along with my players. You know, that didn't happen, you know, 2 and 3 years ago. And so this is what I came to East Carolina to do. This is what me and my staff came here to do, was to build a program, was to build a team that Greenville and Pirate Nation could be proud of. From all aspects, from the community, from the classroom, which every kid on my team has over 3.0 GPA. I'm extremely proud of that, to what we've been able to do on the court. I tell them, you know, I don't tell them this enough, but I love them to death. You know, sometimes they get underneath my skin, they drive me crazy, you know, but I love them to death, and I just want them to be successful in any and everything they do. And there are days when I know they can't stand me because I'm extremely hard on them, but I want them to achieve all of their goals, and I don't want them to take any shortcuts. And so, you know, my goal is for when they leave East Carolina, that they leave better than what they started, and that they, you know, reach all their goals, and that we're able to put them in front of people that can help them be successful life after basketball. Oh yeah, and on another note, just Jayla Earp, you know, sustained a season-ending injury against Houston, so she will be redshirting this year. Jayla is extremely important to our program. Always a smile on her face, on the sidelines, cheering for her teammates, and you know, she's doing really, really good in her rehab, and look forward to her, you know, rejoining the team on the court next season, as she will travel and be with us all along the way. And she plays an important piece in this team and their success this year. But she won't be dressed. You won't see number 5 out on the court this year.
Thanks, Coach.